All right, everyone, get ready because today we're diving into the fascinating world of ninjas.
A world often shrouded in myth and legend.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so exciting. We've got these amazing historical texts to guide us.
And I'm ready to share my expertise in Japanese military history to help separate fact from fiction.
Perfect. So let's jump right in. When you think ninjas, what's the first image that pops into your head?
Black outfits.
Definitely. Scaling walls, disappearing into thin air.
Yeah.
But is that really accurate?
Well, according to these sources, not quite. For starters, imagine trying to blend into the night wearing black.
I guess a dark shape moving in the dark would still be pretty visible.
Precisely. Stealth is about being unseen, not sticking out like a sore thumb.
So no ninja all-black fashion statements.
Not if they wanted to be effective. Our sources emphasize their mastery of disguise. They were masters of blending in.
Oh, so more like everyday folks.
Exactly. Merchants, monks, even entertainers.
Wow, talk about a chameleon-like ability to disappear into a crowd. In fact, our source mentions Komuso monks and their basket hats being the perfect ninja disguise.
Absolutely. Even a famous ninja, Ishikawa Goemon, is said to have used this clever disguise.
Okay, so much for the black-clad ninja stereotype, but it sounds like practicality was their real secret weapon.
Exactly. And that extended to their weapons as well. Think less about flashy swords and more about efficient, versatile tools.
So let's look at my awesome sword and more about what tool will get the job done most effectively.
Now you're getting it.
So what kind of tools are we talking about?
Our source mentions collapsible ladders, grappling hooks, even spiked shoes.
Hold on, spiked shoes. Okay, that's got to be for more than just looking intimidating, right?
Imagine being a guard on a wall and suddenly you've got spiked shoes coming at you from below.
Yikes. Talk about a nasty surprise.
It just shows their commitment to getting the job done no matter what. And these weren't random acts of violence either. It all ties back to their primary role, espionage and information gathering.
They were basically the intelligence officers of feudal Japan.
Precisely. And think about it. Even today, information is power. Knowing your enemy, their plans, their weaknesses, that's invaluable.
It really makes you appreciate the importance of those seemingly simple tools. It wasn't just about brute force. It was about strategy, access, and knowing things others didn't. Speaking of strategy, their tactics were just as fascinating. They were masters of deception.
Absolutely. One example that always comes to mind is the attack on Sawayama Castle in 1558.
Ah, yes, the classic case of the stolen lanterns.
They infiltrated the castle using lanterns bearing the enemy clan's crest.
Talk about psychological warfare. It's like something straight out of a spy film.
Exactly. It highlights their deep understanding of how to manipulate perceptions and exploit weaknesses. They didn't just rely on brute force, they used their minds as much as their bodies.
It's like they understood the art of influence long before modern psychology came along.
And that concept, as our source describes it, is at the heart of ninjutsu.
Ninjutsu. It's more than just cool fighting moves, isn't it?
Oh, much more. It was an entire philosophy of adaptation, resourcefulness, and using everything at your disposal to gain an advantage, physical and mental.
Which makes sense given their social origins. They often came from overlooked backgrounds, the lower classes. And Jutsu was about survival, about leveraging every advantage they could.
Exactly. They were masters of turning challenges into opportunities. And to survive, they needed a diverse set of skills. Our source mentions training in survival, poisons.
Makes sense. But get this, it also mentions mining.
Mining.
Mining. I was surprised too.
Well, it's certainly not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of ninjas. But it does make you realize how limited our view of them often is.
They were more than just assassins or spies. They were masters of adaptation with a wide range of skills. It makes you wonder what other unexpected talents they might have possessed. Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it, those ninja skills being adaptable, resourceful, thinking on your feet. I mean, those are useful in any era.
Absolutely. That's what makes their story so relevant even today. And speaking of today, the ninja story doesn't end with feudal Japan.
Oh, really? Now you've got to tell me more. Because our source mentioned something called the Oniwaban. And to be honest, I'm drawing a blank.
Don't worry, it's not a term you hear every day. Essentially, the Oniwaban were a secret intelligence agency for the Tokugawa shogunate during the Edo period.
Okay, so real-life spies, government-sanctioned intrigue. This just got even cooler. But how does this tie back to our ninja friends?
Well, while there's no concrete evidence, many historians believe that the Oniwaban were likely made up of, you guessed it, former ninjas.
Their skills were just too valuable to waste.
Exactly. Even as warfare evolved, the need for information, for operating in the shadows, remained crucial. Those ninja skills were repurposed for a new era.
So instead of infiltrating castles, they were gathering intel on political rivals, potential threats.
Precisely. And it makes perfect sense, right? The ninjas were all about adapting to the situation, using their skills wherever they were needed.
It's like, okay, no more castles to sneak into, no problem. We'll just become the ultimate intelligence gatherers.
You've got it. It speaks to that core ninja adaptability, that ability to not just survive, but thrive in any circumstance.
Talk about a career change. And speaking of changing careers, our source mentions that many ninjas actually went on to have some surprisingly normal jobs.
Normal. Okay.
Maybe not normal, but diverse. Like, we're talking doctors, merchants, even fireworks makers.
Fireworks makers, huh? It sounds strange at first, but when you think about it, those ninja had knowledge of gunpowder, of creating dazzling effects.
You're right, it's not that far of a leap from their other skills.
Exactly. It just goes to show that their knowledge and abilities were much broader than we often give them credit for.
They really were the original multitaskers, weren't they? Adaptable, resourceful, always learning new things. So what can we, in the 21st century, learn from these masters of adaptation? What's the takeaway for our listeners today?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think what's so fascinating about the ninja, beyond all the cool gadgets and stealthy moves, is that the skills they cultivated, resourcefulness, adaptability, continuous learning, are timeless.
And in our world, which seems to get more complex by the day, those qualities are more valuable than ever, wouldn't you say? It's amazing, isn't it, how we started by trying to separate ninja fact from fiction, and the reality is even more interesting than the myths.
It really is. It reminds us that history is full of these incredible figures, people with real skills and ingenuity. They were the heroes of their time, in a way.
Totally. And that makes me think about the legacy they left behind. Not just those skills, which are still relevant today, but how their image, the idea of the ninja, still captures our imaginations centuries later.
It's because there's an air of mystery around them, right? Always more to uncover. Like even figures we think we know well. Take Hattori Hanzo, for example.
The legendary ninja who served Tokugawa Ieyasu. Our source actually suggests his historical role was probably more nuanced than just being this super stealthy assassin.
Right. He was a leader, a strategist. But the image of the silent warrior persists. That's the power of the ninja myth.
It really is. They've transcended history to become these almost mythical figures. And it makes me think about other overlooked figures. Like our source mentioned Mochizuki Chiyome.
Chiyome. Now there's someone with a story worth telling.
Right. Running that school for young women, disguised as a training ground for geishas, but secretly.
A training ground for spies.
Exactly. Espionage at its finest. It just goes to show the ninja legacy wasn't just men in the shadows. Women were right there with them, using their intelligence, adaptability, and even their perceived roles in society to achieve their missions.
Absolutely. It's a reminder to always look deeper, question those assumptions we make about the past.
Because that's where the real aha moments are. Just like in this deep dive, we uncovered so much more than just cool weapons and secret techniques.
We uncovered a story of human ingenuity, adaptation, and resilience. And honestly, I think that story is still being written.
Now, that's a thought-provoking way to wrap things up. So, to our listeners out there, think about those ninja skills, resourcefulness, adaptability, that constant drive to learn and evolve. How can you use those skills to navigate this crazy, complex world we live in?
It's a good question to ask ourselves.
For sure. And on that note, we've reached the end of our Ninja Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and who knows, you might just surprise yourself with what you're capable of achieving.